Hey, Jason, welcome back to the guild.
Thanks, Joe. It's been a little while. Actually, it feels like a few years in testing world, but only a couple months.
For sure. So, hey, talking about that, a lot goes on in a few months. So, since we spoke, MCP, I'm already off topic. MCP has been a huge thing.
Yeah.
What's the deal with MCP? What is it? Why is it important?
It's basically a way to let people type to and interact with tools from a prompt, basically. So the idea is usually you'd have to, like in the old days of COM, actually, so that dates me. But you used to have very, very strict APIs and you had to code to them and understand them and read the documentation and all this stuff. Even command lines, you have to memorize all the switches and stuff like that. The idea is that MCP lets you take a tool and share it in a way with an AI, like an LLM. And then the person can just say what they want and it figures out which tool to use and how to use it for you. And it can even cascade call. So it can make a call to one tool and then take the output of that and put it to another one. So it's really a workflow, high level workflow engine, natural language kind of workflow engine on top of other tools. It enables all that kind of magic.
So is that the same as agentic AI?
No, kind of. Depends on whatever people want to call agentic.
Okay.
Yeah. The true definition, like an agentic thing, is the purest form is that you have a bunch of AI agents that collaborate together, and often without much human interference or inspiration, to accomplish a goal together. MCP applications are usually more often these days more like I want to accomplish a single thing, right? Like download this image and convert it to ASCII art and then post it to my webpage. But it's not really like a long running multi-agents concurrently working on different aspects and then rolling them up. And so it's baby agentic, I guess I would say.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Jason, every time I talk to you, it seems like you have another company up and running, very prolific. So the latest
failure. It's a sign of failure, Joe.
I wouldn't say failure because you're iterating, it seems like. So the next one looks pretty mind blowing. You gave it a little teaser of it at Automation Guild called Testers.AI. Why did you create Testers.AI? I guess something good to start with.
So funny thing is actually probably interesting to the testing world is that I actually created Testers.AI much earlier than Checky, by the way. I created it a while ago, but testers weren't ready for it. So just the early reception I got from talking to testers, the human testers, is it sounded threatening because they're kind of scared of AI, to be frank. And then you go, well, this thing is my job.ai. That's a little concerning. So I avoided that and created the Checky site for a while to as an umbrella for everything. Because it's more friendly. And also there's a lot of the testing debate. You had some probably earlier this morning, the difference between testing and checking.
Yes.
And so there was also a joke on checking because the AI just checks. It doesn't do everything. Don't worry about it. And don't be concerned. But what's happened is I think both the community and the world has moved fast enough that now people want agentic things. They want they want testers to be AI as much as possible and to use AI as much as possible. So the mood and the environment's changed. So I went back to Testers.AI. That's actually what that loop was about.
All right. Very nice. So what does it do? Why were people afraid of it? Or when people see it now, it looks kind of still, if you go there, you have looks like little different personas of testers or testing activities that you can utilize.
Yeah, it's actually very similar thread that I've been on the last, year and a half, 2 years. The idea is that you create these different personas, exactly like these testers. There's a tester focused on usability. There's a testing agent focused on performance. There's a testing agent focused on security even. And then what you do is the ideal test team, actually, right? So you have one of every specialty kind of in the world of testing. Usually you can't afford that or find those people. And by the way, if you look at their pictures, they're the most beautiful test team on the planet. Did you notice that? They are AI generated, but AI doesn't generate people like me. They're all beautiful people. So I left it that way. So it's the most beautiful testing team on the planet. But the idea is that, you just point them to a website and they look for bugs for you across all those different dimensions of quality. And the crazy thing, Joe, this is the eureka that's happened since we checked last. What's mind blowing actually to me, and I'm an optimist and, people call me an AI cheerleader or something sometimes. But I really got this working and I ran on the porch and I did a happy dance and it's recorded apparently on my porch video. My kid found it. but it's crazy. What happened is the AI is now, and that's also what's recently pushed up on the Testers.AI, is that these agents can find bugs, but they can also create test cases, so functional test cases. So they can look at a web page, auto-generate a full test suite of test cases, like hundreds of tests, and then execute them. Like they can do login, they can do in happy paths, sad paths, edge cases for search, login, form fill, just interactivity, menus, all that stuff. They can generate a full suite, execute them, and then generate a report that visually shows you what they did and the bugs they found, all in like less than an hour. It's kind of crazy. So, and this is what's crazy about it, is that this is better coverage than most test teams have. I've worked on a lot of test teams in the past. Maybe they've all, for some reason, not been very good. But this is better coverage than we would deliver in months. And it can happen in like less than an hour. So we're entering a new world, Joe. Like, and also if you think about it, like I overly get excited. It's also kind of funny because all these other tools and teams are like trying to fix one little piece of their workflow, right? Like fix selectors is this amazing thing. Well, with AI, you just don't need selectors. Like if you have an AI first approach, not just in terms of technology, but in terms of your testing workflow, you let the AI do all the bulk work first, and the humans come in after and review it and say, and sometimes, bad robot, false positive, negative. But the vast majority of the data, the bugs and the coverage is legit. So it's net 100 times faster than doing it yourself. So we're in a new world, Joe. This is something I didn't expect to happen this year, frankly, and it's running and demonstrable today.
So, what's the quality though? Because once again, I had another interview, pretty eye opening there as well.
Tell us who it was, Joe.
Well,
you'll
tell by when it's released. But They showed a user a graph of someone using an application, and they showed they had multiple profiles of different users using the application as a real user, and then they showed an automated script and what that looked like, and it's totally different. And they were saying how different the intent is from behavior. So, how good are the results from these agents? If they're
so, a couple of things I'll note. I challenge you to ask the people that talk about this stuff what tests they have run lately, and against in a real world app, and what bugs they've found that anyone actually fixed. But we'll leave that aside for now. The real story with agents is that, first of all, say that's true, completely true. That AI agents or whatever, even just regular automation, can't catch all these nuanced issues and stuff like that. One thing is that most test teams don't have the time to do that in the first place because they're doing all of the rote basic work. Like they basically can't keep on top of the basic testing. So a lot of people that teach or try to give presentations on the nuance of some sophisticated testing procedure, very rarely is that stuff executed in production because no one has the time to begin with. So I highly recommend people let AI or some other form of testing do the basics so they can focus on those types of things. But secondly, if you actually look at it, the agents that I have running, and you know me, I try not to self-promote too much because it gets dated too, but you can generate not only there's personas in there, there's user feedback personas in the stuff that I'm working on. So it will look at the web page and dynamically generate personas that would like to interact with that page. So say it's a medical device company, it will create hospital administrators. It will create like in the medical world, it creates personas that match that application, and then ask them for not only just functional coverage, but qualitative feedback on that website. And even more fun is that you can also create your own personas. So I was working with a travel agency, travel search company, and one of their personas was a great example. And also these people were talking very nebulous, high level kind of vagaries. This is a real company trying to do real testing on a real travel search site. And one of their they have some personas defined. One of their personas is a very rich, first-class traveler, international traveler that always travels with their dog. Like you can imagine this lady with the dog in the purse or something, right? But they have very special things they're searching for and they're looking for and they need in their itinerary. And so the question is, how does it work? How well does it work for that person? So you can create these personas and feed them into the agents. And this is where tester creativity is maximized. So they spend all day thinking about these nursing personas, but then you feed it into the agents. They ingest that and they give feedback based on that persona. So it's kind of true what they're saying, but the reality is no one really does that. And also the reality is you can actually do it better, faster, and cheaper with, ironically, with AI and automation. And ask them again what tests they've actually run and any bugs they've actually filed that were fixed.
So this sounds cool, but if I am a tester, I don't know if I want it to be true, like you said, because I still think there's resistance to, all right, if this does this, then what does a tester do?
Right. So I almost should have asked you to ask that question. I've also been interacting with people on this, like over the last few months, and there's two parts to it. The second one is the finding I've had. I'll share that in a second. First, I think it's worse than you believe.
Worse.
Testers, I believe now, after interacting with a lot of humanity the last few months, is that testers don't actually care about quality. Very rare. Very rare is when the tester care about quality. What they care about is the mechanics of testing. So they love to know they're adding value and getting paid for putting their headphones on and executing the same suite manually over and over and over again. Maybe a little exploratory testing on Friday afternoon. But they like that activity. They also, if you're a developer, like if you're an automation developer, they love to create page object models.
Yes.
That's what they're there for. They want to code. Most of them interviewed to be a developer.
Yep.
Didn't pass the interview loop. So this is a practice job to get to the developer role so they can create more buttons, I guess. I don't know, it's not interesting to me. But they like the craft. They like doing the work in the execution of it. They not only don't care about quality, they also don't care about efficiency, because the inefficiency in the process is their fun. And that's what they're there for. So I think the vast majority of testers don't actually care about quality, and they actually don't care about efficiency. And they absolutely don't want to use these tools, to be very clear. I think they don't want to use these types of tools because it threatens their job, and they like things to be predictable, and it ruins their fun. So let me tell you one quick anecdote that's beautiful. This is not just a testing specific thing. There's the IDE. So these are I know you know this, but for our audience, there's tools where developers can code, right? And then they can type in prompts, add a button in the top right corner for sign in or whatever. And it goes off and generates the code for them. It sounds like a tool, like maybe even a tease. Maybe it could work, but one of those companies just got an offer for buyout for $3 billion, I think, yesterday. So it's like legit. There's interest in people using it. The problem, so they asked the CEO of this thing in a Q&A, what's the biggest concern or problem your users have? And he was going to say something about some feature or wish or something like that. But no, he stopped himself and he said, the developers don't want to be testers. And I was like, let me think about it. I'm still thinking about it to today. Because what it does is it turns that developer into a tester, because the AI is doing most of the code. Now they're accountable for it. They have to test it now. They're the tester. And they might fix things up and rejigger it a little bit, adding human value and review. They have to review the code, and that they're accountable for it. And they're testing it now. Like most of their job is prompting, waiting, go get a coffee or while the agentic stuff runs. And they come back and they have to fix things up a little bit. Sometimes it just works, but they have to test it. And they don't want to be testers. The analogy here is in the testing world is the same thing is coming to the testing world, where AI can and will do the bulk of the testing, and it's demonstrable today. If people want to live in denial, that's fine, but it's demonstrable. But guess what testers don't? Guess what testers like to do? They like to do the testing. Just like the developers like to code, they like to do the testing. They don't like to be the test manager. Everyone goes like, who tests the tests, right? Well, no one really does. We know that, Joe. Rarely does anyone really review tests. But that's the mode that it's going to be putting. The bulk of the work for testers moving forward will be reviewing the output and tests of the AI agents and testing bots. And most testers won't like that and don't want to do that. So it's going to be a very interesting period here. And I'll finish up with the IDE thing is what just happened. I just launched these this week, but is with MCP, back to what you said at the top of the hour. We've used MCP and added our testing agents now into the IDE experience. So when that developer, so this is what's coming next is that developer has to test the code. Well, when the AI generates it, right? No, now with MCP, they can just say in their IDE, in their tool, say, hey, check this for me, or can you test this website out for me? And guess what happens, Joe? It goes and starts testing it.
Nice.
And then guess what happens? The bugs from that get auto uploaded back into the IDE. And guess what the AI coding agent does, Joe? It looks at the bug report list, and guess what it does? It starts to fix them. And then it produces a new build, and it sends it back to the AI testing agents. And at some point, they're not perfect yet. They're not genius yet. But at some point, most of the basic stuff has been found, fixed, and resolved and verified. And then the humans come in. So I think of them as the humans now are starting to become the exception handlers in a very polite way. But when the AI can't figure it out, only after the AI can't figure it out, the humans come in and handle the exceptions and fix things up that the AI couldn't figure out or do. But that net process is like measurably 10 to 100 times faster than the similar human process, especially when you measure latency. So that's what's coming next. So the question is, these testers, only a few testers, I think, will make that leap across this threshold here.
So what are they going to do? What are the skills they need then, or habits?
So I say this is a good news. This is a preface to that. I promise I'll answer the question. The real interesting thing here, though, is that AI is generating code. I use this basic napkin math. AI can generate code, say, 10 times faster. If you look at the top, like listen to these people that don't, apparently testers know more than the CEOs of Google, Microsoft, OpenAI. And it's amazing, Joe. They're freaking geniuses. They're just trapped doing manual test execution every day, but they know better than all these guys. So sorry, you can tell I spent too much time in my cave, and reading LinkedIn. But the reality is that these agents are going to produce 10 times the amount of code. And if you think humans are only needed for 10% of the work, the amount of code goes up 10x. 10% is what we have today. 10% of the future is what we have today. I think we actually need as many or more testers than we have today. But I think there's going to be a shortage of testers, ironically, because guess what? Most of those testers they'll opt out of the system because they won't want to do that work. They don't want, the developers don't want to be a tester. They don't want to be a reviewer of tests, and they don't want to embrace the technology. They like what they're doing today, and the world's just going to move past them. So I think ironically might have a shortage of testers, not even just like a break even, but a shortage. But those are the testers that are smart enough, experienced enough, and care about quality enough that they will look and review and appreciate the work that the AI did. Just like some developers go, it's not as smart as me. I'm going to still manually craft all my C code or something. Amazon's stopped hiring engineers. Salesforce claimed to stop hiring engineers too, and switching over to AI. And that trend's going to, the pendulum's going to keep going the other way, where they're going to, and what Facebook, I think, just said they're getting rid of most mid-level engineers, I think, or something this year or next. So there's going to be an outflow from the testing world at the very moment we need very experienced and caring and passionate testers. I think is what's going to happen. There's going to be so many test results reviewed. I'll give you one quick example. Sorry. If you just go to the Testers.AI.
We'll have a link for it down below as well, so people can check it out also. Okay, good.
And a brilliant business model. I'm giving away AI testing agents for free. It's genius.
Wow.
But if you go there, and even better than that, there's test results for like almost 500 homepages of companies around the world, of like the top web pages on the planet. The AI has already tested them, and you can browse around and look at the bugs it's found and stuff like that. So I'm not only am I giving the tool away free, I'm actually testing people's pages for free. I need a business partner. But it's demonstrable that like no tester could have done that, and it's happening now. So it's just this is the reality of the world. Yeah.
So I've done trivial things with like a ChatGPT. I get sometimes good output, and sometimes I'm like, what the heck? like something stupid, like an image. Here's an image. Keep it exactly how it is, and just change this one thing. And every time I did it, and I have a chat, it's always different. It still changes it, and that's just trivial. So how can we trust the AI agents to be doing what they say they're doing?
Perfect.
You know what I mean?
Perfect example. So again, there's two. Usually you're supposed to do three, but I'll just do two because don't have a lot of RAM. One is that picture that came out. I'll just make this philosophical argument. Picture that came out. A, you could call it user error because you didn't specify it well enough, the change you wanted. B, this is my AI apology. B, it's your opinion. If I execute the same prompt, maybe the picture it gave would have been what I wanted. So it doesn't know what you want. There's variety and ambiguity in that. But also the reality is it's not that smart yet. But if you look even last week, if you look at, Blink or whatever, and there's, and the new chat GPT stuff, it's getting pretty darn good. So guess what we're talking about, Joe? We're talking about, oh no, I asked it. What would you ask it to do? I asked it to take a picture, swap in Fabio's hair for mine, right?
Yes.
And I know you, Joe. I see your query. I got your prompts instrumented. And then guess what? The hair just wasn't flowing right. Well, 1%er problem. And by the way, if we're really worried about it, wait 6 weeks, maybe 3 months. And it'll be even better. So,
but that's a trivial problem. What about like at an enterprise, like that's doing radiology software? I mean, like completely.
Oh, okay. Good point. So if you look around, one thing is you look at studies, actual academic things. The AI is on average. This is an interesting thing. AI on average is better than most of these radiologists themselves. Like literally is. And guess how radiologists are using AI? They let the AI go through thousands of these things efficiently, and they look at the anomalies and they look at ones that are the extrema, right? Just like I'm saying, how developers are using AI and how testers should be using AI. So I think first, you shouldn't really be waiting for the AI to be perfect. By the way, it never will be. And also the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some testers think AI is wrong because they're not a very good tester, frankly. Or sometimes they think it's really wonderful because they're not a great experienced tester and they're fine with the basic responses. In terms of, I think what you're getting at is how do you rely on this stuff that is variable and not always predictable. Again, even if you exclude the human in the loop, the way we do it at Testers.AI, and I've had to do this, by the way, not just because it's cool to do, but because I had to control quality, is almost everything that's done is peer reviewed by one agent, by another agent. There's actually like a test manager agent that reviews the work of the other laboring AI agents. Also use multiple LLMs, by the way, to cross-check each other. And like for every flow, even though the agent thinks it did well, it double checks it again and says, hey, does this, here's the intent, here's the actual results, here's the consequence. Like, does that seem correct, right, to you? So there's like 4 levels of eval and checking because I'm a tester, right? But the funny thing is this. Think of the reverse. Every tester thinks like, oh, versus some perfect ideal world that doesn't exist. Look at your Selenium scripts and Java. When you do a flow, right, and you're clicking through an app, for example, and you get to the 4th page where you're supposed to be, how do you know that you're there? Guess what everyone does? They grep or they do a regex looking for a string on that page, which will be shopping cart or something, right? So they make sure they got there. There's so little validation in existing test automation. It's embarrassing now. The AI looks at console logs, network activity, screenshot of the app, has the context of the whole flow, and it has kind of the combined intelligence of the planet to a degree embedded in it. And when it looks at that last radiology chart picture, right, on the screen for the doctor to review that application that the doctor is going to look at, it looks at the entire screen. And it can, even if you ask the Selenium developer, automation engineer, is this the right page? And guess what it is? It's a radiology chart for somebody that has a problem, right? Guess what the AI can do? The AI can act, and your script finds a problematic chart, right? The AI not only verifies holistically that you got there correctly, that the flow made sense, but that screen makes sense for a human to look at because it can find UI bugs and if it's confusing or even difficult to read or has usability issues or anything like that, it finds those. Slam scripts don't find any of that stuff. But most importantly, it can even give you an assessment on this exact thing problem you gave me of the radiology image. And you can ask it, do you think there's a problem in here? Does this look like a problematic, scan as I was expecting? So you can actually get that. You talk about the test team. I know somebody might have worked on a medical product in the past, but your automation never did any of that. So even though there's imperfections in the radiologists themselves, but the interesting thing is that on average, it's faster, delivers far better coverage, far less expensive, and can give you far more validation than we even usually have today in most situations. Even that radiology, because the AI can actually look at that radiology output. Try the latest GPT on a radiology image that you used to. I guess you can't, but if you ran it local, you could. But that's better than any Java Selenium code I have ever seen in my life.
And it's almost doing it like a real user because it's using visuals. Is that what it is? It's all image based now, or is it?
Well, depending on Utah. So our stuff is it's a combination of actually a lot of things. It looks at the DOM, also visual, also network activity. An API is called, and console logs. That's what it looks at today. So it puts all those together, not just to find bugs, but also to figure out how to execute it and then verify that flow was executed correctly. Yeah.
So I guess another thing that's been freaking me out. I've been reading this website. They wrote a book called "Modern Day Oracles of BS Machines: How to Thrive in a ChatGPT
World."
I
think I saw that. Yep.
And they gave a good. So I guess my question to you before we get into that, I guess it relates is: is an LLM thinking? Are these agents thinking?
Nobody knows. But the funny thing is, Joe, we cannot define what human thinking is. We don't even know what consciousness is. Like we can't. Somebody this week has an MRI version of maybe a way through kind of the entropy of the brain state to decide if a person is conscious or not conscious, like asleep or awake. But that's as close as we get. So when humans are saying, "Oh, this isn't thinking,"
hold on. So I could be asleep right now. I don't know.
I just don't think you're a conscious agent. You're just part of my simulation.
Oh man!
But actually, you were an in-app purchase that I proactively opted into, and I had to do a lot of farming to get you, and I appreciate it. But no, so the funny thing is, humans think we're so smart, but like we have a ton of biases, and one of them is just that we think we're smart, and so we judge everything else like against the way that we think in our decisions. Like I was saying, there's beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? Like sometimes some person, based on their experience or whether they're what their mood is. Like you've seen these studies where judges change their sentencing decisions based on before or after lunch, right? Is dramatic, a significant bit. But frankly, Anthropic had an article, they released a paper like maybe last week. They're trying to trace through and debug these deep neural nets to figure out what thinking is happening or not. But the weird thing is this: at the end of the day, we don't even know how our own brains work. Let alone, I think it's a hubris to criticize how, in that context, how another thing might be thinking or determine whether it's thinking or not, because we can't even decide how we think. And really, at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. And the real metric today, from a testing quality perspective, are these evals, right? That measure everything from math to science to world knowledge to factuality. Even testers always worry about hallucination. Hallucination has dropped like a rock. It used to be a big problem. It's far, far, far fewer in between a problem. So the reality is we don't know how they think. We don't know how we think. And at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter what matters is what they can do from an applied engineering perspective. From applied engineering perspective, they can generate better. No human wants to do this, but like they should challenge themselves to a test with AI, right? Sit down and write. I did this at a conference, by the way, recently. I had people in a workshop sit down. They gave everybody 10 minutes, a room of 50 people, find bugs on the conference webpage, right? No one found really anything. There were like a couple things here or there. I ran the AI in the same time. Actually took like less time than that. And I gave them these 50 testers that care enough to go to a conference. and we found like 40 issues. And by the way, some real nasty security ones. But the best bug was this at the end of the day. The AI did a bunch of pre-thinking and it found out there were some problems, some sketchy stuff. I won't mention them because they're security. Sketchy stuff in the auth and login area. It found some bugs and issues. But a human during the break looked at that result and then went off and dug deeper and found out that it was some catastrophic security problems, right? And so, and those have been fixed. But it was the combination of the, whatever it's thinking or not, with the human thinking or not, that's where the real power comes from. The basics can get done very expensively and slowly with humans or quickly with machines. But the best is when I think the AI is finding the smoke, and then the testers find the fire. That's, I think, where we're evolving. But most testers just want to look for smoke and then foul the bug and move on.
So I think you brought up a great point there, though, is you had people actually try it within a conference setting to kind of challenge them. So I challenge people that may not agree with you, maybe go to Testers.AI and download it and try it for themselves. So what can they try? Can you explain a little bit more? I know you mentioned sometimes about personas, so they would download it. How hard is it to get up and running? And then are they able to run API tests, accessibility tests, performance tests? How does that all work?
Yeah, so it's actually, I try to make it as super easy as possible. So you can just download it. You download a binary. You have to pick. It's very complicated. You have to pick which platform you're on. Windows, Ubuntu, Mac. You have to know if you're on Mac Intel or ARM. So we lose about 40% of testers. Point. Actually, I think we do. And then you download your machine and you mark it as safe to run because you trust me. And I'm not monitoring your image queries, Joe. But you just download it and then you run it. The name of the app is called Testers. Like on Windows, it's called Testers.exe. And you have to go to a console. If you double click it, this is my biggest issue right now. People they don't see anything run because it doesn't have a GUI. That's a command line. So you have to open up a terminal and type testers.exe space test, T-E-S-T. It's four characters. And you hit enter, and what it will do, and then you can add, and then after that you add your URL, whatever your URL is you want tested. And if you're behind a firewall, it can test internal URLs as long as it can get to the web page. What it does then is it wakes up, automatically loads your web page, loads all the agents. You can see them dance around and do their inspection and testing and their chat back and forth. They're talking to each other about what issues they found. You see the test manager come in and triage them. It all happens automatically while you're just watching. And then it will generate functional test cases. And the demo mode, when you first download, just with no flags, the demo mode, it will report those bugs. And then it will execute 3 of the functional tests that it defined. So it'll define like 20 or 30 simple ones and then execute them for you, though. Right there, you'll see it clicking through and records a video of the whole event and provides a test report. It's pretty, that's all I do. Download it, run one command line, and it will do all that. And I would say you can do all these customizations, but really we're in a new world. If that's possible, and only that was possible, that's a pretty crazy world. And if people want to generate 2 tips, if people want to generate custom personas, it's just a flag. You can tell it what type of, you could say, for a friend, Kevin, I think you know Kevin, for his website, he works at the church in Utah. And you just type -- custom personas, and then you put in quotes the prompt and you say, return missionaries, looking for the singles word to date. And it creates a bunch of user personas that match that criteria. And then next run, it will run them against the website, and you get feedback from them on what the website should be doing and their expectations, whether expectations are met in terms of features and content.
But how does it get? I don't understand how it gets the context of that. Like, how does it know that? That's such an obscure kind of persona. How does it know how to match that persona?
It's crazy. It's fun. I did the same thing with the world travelers that are. By the way, this is the funny part. I asked it for rich world travelers that travel with their dog, right? Just generate those, and generated a few of them. The funny one was almost all of them were older, but you'd expect that.
Right.
But how does it do it? It's a lot of, there's Arbon magic in there. But the reality is GPT, if you ask GPT right now, right, any chat LLM, and you go, you can actually ask it right now. You can say, generate personas that match this description, and it's pretty darn good. And it's 100 times less expensive, or actually 1,000 times probably less expensive than human doing it. Probably 100 times faster. But it does it. And there's a lot of painful evenings I've had trying to make sure how to get that into execution and bug reporting stuff. But yeah, LLMs, what people don't understand about LLMs, testers especially don't get, is that LLMs really do have the context of the world in them, but testers just, for whatever reason, cannot get it out of there because they think everything has to be scripted, written precisely, triple checked by a human. The reality is that the AI even knows more about testing than almost any tester. I challenge them, like, take a quiz. I had it take the
ISTQ.
I had it take the what are those standardized tests? What's the big standardized test?
ISTQ or something, or IS?
Yeah, ASTQB or whatever. And it passed with flying colors. Ironically, the only one that it didn't really do well on is the AI test manager one. And I looked at the questions, a little sus as to whether they're relevant or not. And then they put a banner up. I don't know if I told you this before. They put a banner up after I did that. And I publicized that it's passing these tests. The certification stuff that you cannot automatically test, and you can't publish any results from any testing that you do on the test page. Which is funny. But the people, just testers, don't know how to unlock it because I think the reality is they don't want it to work, and they also don't sit down for 4 or 5 hours and learn how to use it and learn. Like, the biggest trick is they ask one question and it gives them a crappy answer. They ask a simple question. Usually the person you talked to earlier today would ask a question that's misspelled, poor grammar, but they're stupid questions. And then they get a stupid answer. But guess what? You can also ask the AI to give you an answer for quantum mechanics, to describe quantum mechanics as if you're talking to a 5-year-old. So it adapts to the question. So a lot of times the AI is deliberately giving you a non-sophisticated answer as a tester because you've asked it a simple question. And testers always ask simple questions first. They do the BVTs. They do the smoke tests first. But guess what? Smoke tests on AI give you simple, dumb answers, and they move on. You really need to push it, ask it multiple questions, and then give it a lot of context, and then judge the thing. But if people can't do that, they're not really ready to use AI, frankly.
So another use case came into my head. I was reading this book, Oracle BS Machines, and they said if someone is prompting it incorrectly, say they're generating garbage, and they don't know, they're not an expert, they're copying it, publishing on a blog, and over time, how does LLMs learn? They scrape these sites. So over time, does it degenerate over time if it's going to start using? Is that a real fear? Because someone said that could possibly happen.
The reality is, so this is, there's always, people were anti bicycles at one point. They were anti locomotives. They were anti plows at some point. That's actually like 2-3-year-old kind of thinking. Most of the LLMs today are they use reinforcement learning, and they use hundreds of thousands or more of human input to do the reinforcement learning with, to make it say the right things and to teach it what is a fact and what is just rumor, right? What is the earth flat or not, right? If enough people say that the earth is flat, the LLMs won't say the earth is flat unless you ask it to tell you that. So no, I think the people that talk about those things and write those things, frankly, we spend hours on this. They frankly don't understand the technology. And usually they're computer science professors that were not part of the LLM craze and did not make any money on this stuff. If you look up almost all of them, all the naysayers, they fall in that category. And also almost all the testers that complain about AI and LLMs and testing, if you look at them, they were formerly employed somewhere recently, and upset that they can't. They're upset with their job hunt, usually.
These are professors. I'm going to look them up. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm just guessing. But usually they're, and they've studied some different field that didn't take off, so they're kind of jelly. Is the reality, especially like Marcus, And if you look at them too, look at their tweets. They've always made these protests like, oh, AI will never do this. AI could never do that. And then guess what? Like 6 months, 12 months later, they're demonstrably proven wrong. So at some point you got to go, who do you believe? And what you should believe is math. And there's these things called trend lines and how they're doing on the evals, how they're doing. And by the way, just money speaks because, a billion people now are using AI and they're finding some value in it. So usually it's people that have an axe to grind, or they teach a different thing. Like the person you may have talked to earlier, people teach, I'm just guessing. People are used to teaching people how to do things manually and click and then go, oh, here's a puzzle. Can you solve this puzzle? We'll see how creative you are. And that's the measure of, and find this very niche little weird test case or something, right? Or is this anomaly? But 99.9% of testing is not that. It's making sure the site still works as expected, and works for the average normal user. That's the bulk of testing. And if you can accomplish that, you're in the top 1% of testing teams. It's very rare to get to that point.
Okay, Jason, before we go, is there one piece of actual advice you can give to someone to help them with their AI testing efforts? And what's the best way to find or contact you?
I feel so happy you said that. I listen to that all the time. And I go like, I have some thoughts. I'll be not even commercial because it's free. Just go to Testers.AI and download the thing and play with it. It's free. You can get free bugs and free, like in less than an hour, you can see what AI can do today. And it'll get better. It's not perfect. But try it out. So the key advice is for testers is test things. Like instead of imagine how they won't work in some weird obscure case, or they won't cover something very unique to you, just try this stuff, test it out. And the key thing is compare it with an oracle. And guess who the oracle should be? You put yourself to the same test that you gave the AI and then compare yourself with it. If you just poke holes in things, that's what the lowest degenerate tester does, is they just find problems in things. They don't appreciate the complexity. They don't appreciate the value. They just are super excited to find a bug. Be a tester and be a critical thinker and actually measure these things. That's what I recommend. That's my advice. Be a tester, ironically.
Thanks again for your automation awesomeness. The links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/A542. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate it and review it in iTunes? Reviews really help in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers. Hey, thank you for tuning in. It's incredible to connect with close to 400,000 followers across all our platforms and over 40,000 email subscribers who are at the forefront of automation, testing, and DevOps. If you haven't yet, join our vibrant community at testguild.com, where you become part of our elite circle driving innovation in software testing and automation. And if you're a tool provider or have a service looking to empower our guild with solutions that elevate skills and tackle real-world challenges, we're excited to collaborate. Visit testguild.info to explore how we can create transformative experiences together. Let's push the boundaries of what we can achieve.
The Test Guild Automation Testing Podcast. With lutes and lyres the bards began their song. A tune of knowledge, a melody of code. Through the air it spread like wildfire through the land, guiding testers, showing the secrets to behold.